I need to fix that video, but hey.
Should have kept that music going, man.
I haven't
Like
figured out how to
MTV.
loop all these things yet. Do I look like an audio engineer to you?
Kind of.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Creator Economy. This is our weekly interview show where we connect you with people from the creator ecosystem. This is our weekly interview series that we hold on Wednesdays, and we'll be interviewing voices and players from the creator economy at large. The goal is to discuss key topics impacting the growth of the creator economy as we know it. We do go live on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and you can find out more over at created.show. That's our official show page. We also stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Clubhouse, and Twitter Spaces. So you can join with audio or video. You pick your poison. We also do post longer form content and notes over at our website at createdeconomy.com. So this is an interactive show. We do encourage and welcome your questions by all means. So at any time, if you have a question, leave it in the comments down below, DM us on Twitter or Clubhouse, and we will do our best to try to get to your questions as well, or bring your voice into the equation whenever we get a moment to do so. So let's dive into it. Ken, how are you been?
I'm good. I mean, we've hit number 10 episodes, and we haven't killed each other, which is
this really 10? Wow.
This is 10, dude. This is 10.
I guess that means we're pot committed now to this.
Isn't there a thing where if you do it more than like a certain number of times, it's no longer become just a fad. It's actually become a pattern or a habit or something like that. There's some magic number or something like that. And I think
habitually signing up for this level of work and effort would mean basically that we are crazy people.
I know we're just in different parts, and we're used to hanging out every week, but this is kind of a weird excuse to have that happen. You know, for us to dedicate an hour of time to talk about stuff.
Absolutely is. I will say that much for sure. All right. Well, let's get into it because we got a very fun guest from a very fun startup with us today. And I know we got a lot to do. In case you missed it last week, though, we did split our show into 2 parts now. So we actually will record twice a week. Wednesdays is our interview where we'll be bringing you players from the space and the ecosystem, give you a chance to meet the founders and the creators in our industry. Also on Fridays, we'll be having our full news coverage. So feel free to tune back in on Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific time if you want to catch the news. So welcome back. As Ken mentioned, this is episode 10, July 28th, 2021. Welcome back. As I mentioned, we have our 2 shows now. So feel free to tune in whenever for whichever kind of content you want, but hopefully it is both of them. You can follow us, by the way, over on YouTube, Creator Economy. We'd appreciate it. We'd like to get to 100 subscribers because that means that we're on our way to 1,000 subscribers. You know, we want to monetize, right? We want those super thanks and the super tips and the super chats and the super stickers, all the fame and glory that comes from, having 1,000 subs. If not, I'm going to make Ken buy us subs.
Wait, hold on. Why do I got to go buy them? This.
Ken, I don't want to be the one who gets in trouble for buying subs, so you do it.
Wait, we need to have an expert on the show to help us figure out how to monetize these things. Because honestly, like between the 2 of us,
you would think that with all the guests we've had, that someone would have told us how to actually get some subs.
Well, maybe Antonio can help us out with that.
Okay, we'll ask him after. Then we've got the Creator Economy on Twitter. We're on Twitch at Creator Economy, and we're also on Flipboard at Creator Economy. And by the way, that's an important place for you to go because all of the links that we review on a weekly basis get shared over there. So it's a good place to find all the news. But of course, our Twitter account pushes them out in real time as well. So this week, we are excited and pleased to have Antonio Gary Jr. Interesting story or backstory. I actually came across Antonio a long time ago when I was researching like folks in the creator space before he was actually at this company called Spore. And I found his newsletter a long, long time ago. And I was like, man, this guy's got really cool content. Start following him. And so I'm excited to actually be able to have a chat with him now because it's nice when you meet your heroes, right? And so I'm really excited to have Antonio with us today. And so without further ado, let's bring the man on stage. How are you doing?
What's up, party people? I'm doing good. And I did not know you knew about the newsletter.
I knew about the newsletter way before. And I was like, wait, why does this name sound so familiar? And I'm like, wait a minute.
Everything comes full circle.
It really, really does. And it shows you that, listen, the creator space is growing, but it's good to meet people that you've been following and whatnot. So appreciate the support there.
No, for sure. And it also shows just, I think, that how early we are still in the life of our space, right? Like,
Yeah.
because like, why did Ken and I start doing this show? We didn't think there was enough people talking about the economics and the other parts of it going on. And there was a lot of people talking about, more people talking about creator economics, like from the creator's point of view.
Yeah.
But not the other side, right? Like all of us wackos trying to build stuff to support creators, right?
Yeah.
Like that was sort of like a whole different universe that we thought was not quite covered yet. So we're pretty excited to have you here. And we've got a bunch of questions. And first, tell us who you are real quick. Just do a quick intro for yourself so everyone knows who they're hearing right now.
Yeah, so my name is Antonio Gary. I'm head of business development at Spore, and currently writing a newsletter called Creator Crew. It comes out every Wednesdays and Fridays. And then before that, I've had numerous roles in marketing, sales, back at VaynerMedia, BET, and also product at a small college. So I've had my way around the block, and I've always been a creator. So before the newsletter, I was running a hip hop blog back when bloggers were cool and Tumblr was a thing. That's no longer the case.
For the record, bloggers were never cool.
Whoa!
Shots fired. Oh,
Wow!
oh,
I was a blogger from like 2003.
No, you were never a blogger.
Cool.
So Antonio, you and I are going to have this conversation and not talk to Greg. I mean, there's a lot of haterade over there.
We'll do that, and you focus on buying the followers.
You know I'm right. Come on, don't even front. We know that like bloggers were never cool. Come on.
Wow. Listen. Wow. There were so many good blogs, but hey, everything comes full circle.
I didn't say they weren't good. I simply said they weren't cool. All right.
Okay. All right. We'll have to see about that one.
I'm only playing. There was a lot of great bloggers out there.
That hurts, Greg. That hurts.
Not Ken, man. But there were a lot of good bloggers out there.
Wow.
For everyone who's only listening, you should see Ken's facial reactions right now. Wow, he's contorting.
You know that if you could describe the facial expression in an emoji, it's basically that one with the exploding head. Right now, you're like oh my god.
I feel like that's a millennial emoji now. No, none of the cool kids are using it, so you might be playing into gregarious.
Okay, boomer. Okay, boomer.
You see now the ageism just comes out. You see, I don't know anything about that.
Why don't you get off my lawn? Wait, hold on. You don't know that.
Are we really talking about the creator economy if we don't mention ageism? Come on.
Hey, let's keep this chain moving. Let's keep this chain moving.
I'm just messing.
Is this the right emoji? Do I have that?
I don't know. It looks like you have a giant red target on your forehead right now, and I'm like, sure. No, yeah, actually, that's the right one. You need to make it bigger though, so it encompasses your entire face.
I'm still learning how to use Ecamm here.
There you go. There you go. Much bigger though. Much bigger.
I wish I could put it over Ken's face, actually, but I can't.
I'm sorry, that's actually not going to be allowed.
All right.
Keep going.
Let's get into it now. Antonio, number one, when you worked at Vayner, were you in LA or in New York?
I was in New York, so I worked at Vayner, and then also worked with the Sasha team. So Sasha Group is the startup division, the startup SMB division of Vayner. Interesting.
I don't know if you know this old small backstory, but we used to work out of the Vayner office when it was down in Battery Park area, like the first office.
You're OG. Yeah, I came in on the Hudson Yards Live, so we.
That one. Yeah, because we knew Gary and AJ from way back, and randomly, this is when he had Corked way back when.
That is far back.
That's a throwback.
Yeah. And also my last company, Shoot, we used to do work with Vayner and we had some overlapping products as well. So I got to know the friends as well. So Ken, you're up first.
All right.
Question.
So Antonio, why don't we start off with kind of really understanding how, your background and how did you get to starting at Spore and what Spore is, and basically tell people what is it that you do?
Yeah. So the newsletter, I got really invested in the creator economy, and after leaving Vayner, I went out on my own. And there was one thing that I've always done, and I loved doing, and that was creating content. But what I fell off at the time was being consistent with creating content. So once the blog died down, I've always had this knack for writing, but I used to be a YouTuber really early in the day. Oh wait, I'm dating myself now. And it just and through creating content, I've always found that when you create content, even when you're building a business, it has an ROI that's hard to track, but it just pays dividends. I'm sure you guys know that. So I created a newsletter. I really wanted to have a public journal of covering the creator economy and create a space for founders, operators, and creators to be able to stay up to date and really have a trustworthy source of news every week. And from there, I've just been able to build relationships. And there were ideas and theses that I was developing. And that was one where, creators, there's so many different tools. And if you're not a technical creator, it's hard to connect these dots. So if you have a website, you're going to need Zapier for your email, and you're going to have another platform to monetize. And it gets really difficult to do that. And also when you're one person, especially when you're an early stage creator, you're normally working another job. So we're talking about a taxing environment where you're playing a long game. So what was great was there's a Discord made by Backseat VC Jen. If you guys are,
a creator of means, yes,
yeah, means of creation. Discord, the best
one of the best.
I cannot say there's so many good things I can say about it. And I remember Austin posting about he was looking for people to join Spore.
Shut up! You got your job from that Discord?
I got my job from that Discord, and that's why I am Jen's #1 fan. Literally, I tell her that all the time. And it was just it was weird. I had this Austin had this fully built out idea, and I was like, listen, I've been picturing this, but you're the technical person. You're able to build this, and you've had this vision already. So once we started talking, everything just clicked. And we've had this idea that, listen, the creator economy is being unbundled, but what the reality is that creators actually need something that is bundled. And the way that we look at that is what would the Shopify for creators look like? And that's what we're building.
Interesting.
All right, so let me ask you a question real quick, or unpack a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So when you say creators from tell me what it means now and what's it going to mean, I guess, right? And then the Shopify part, it seems to ring to me a little different than I interpret Shopify. So I'm curious how you guys, can you explain both terms a little bit just for context?
Well, so with Shopify, what we're saying is an infrastructure for content creators, and the term creator is very broad. We know this. There's a huge umbrella, and that's why we identify an area to focus on. So when we first started out, we were working exclusively with Clubhouse creators. Since then, we've decided that it's not just Clubhouse. There's podcasts. You're on Twitter Spaces right now, so it's that audio creator, and focusing on giving them an infrastructure that they're able to build an audience, share their content, share their episodes, organize their links, and expanding upon that. We're in the early vision of our company, but where we see it is that we're going to give creators the flexibility that they'll be able to own their brand as well as their content in one place.
Okay, so the Shopify part is the infrastructure around commerce, I guess, conceptually, or around customer management, commerce, and I guess maybe fulfillment. Is that do you think that's part of the? I guess some of the digital fulfillment you kind of already do, right?
Yeah. So fulfillment, as far as in the merch, that's on the long term, vision. But right now, it's just when you look at Shopify, they created an infrastructure for e-commerce, e-commerce merchants that's extremely flexible. So whether or not you use their platform, you can still plug into other tools. When we look at it from Spore, what we're building is a way for you to own your audience. What we mean by that, and this is something we talk about a lot, it's being able to collect emails, SMS, having that audience and being able to take it where you are. We're the platform powering creators, but we want to make sure there's that flexibility that they can accomplish what they want. And that's how we look at it as far as on the infrastructure. And when we look at Shopify, there's a real flexibility there. And that's what we're trying to build for creators that we don't see out there.
So you're giving these creators basically the tools to set up an online presence, to connect with brands or monetize their work in through ads or whatever, and further connect with to what we're looking on the screen, with their super fans, and kind of really delineate who. So it's almost like it's not necessarily a Shopify per se, but it's a Shopify meets a Weebly / Squarespace meets Salesforce type of all mixed into one, right? But specifically in this so-called social audio space. Would that be a fair description?
Without that's a long way of explaining combining 6 different sites. So
you can tell who the writer is.
Less is more. So we say in that sense, Shopify. What we mean by that is the flexibility and infrastructure where you're able to get up and running and own your brand, own your content, own your audience. So you'll be able to bring everything into one place, and that's something that we hit home with because you see the current environment. If you want to set up a website, you build on Webflow, you got to plug in a Zapier to MailChimp. Then you also have to maybe plug in a Privy for an email capture. It gets tough, it gets taxing. And if you're not familiar with the Zapier and that background, it's really hard to manage that. And let's not forget, it's expensive.
So I think I remember originally, like Josh Constantine was probably the first time at Press Club, I think was the first time I saw a Spore site. And by the way, so my platform, Zealous, same thing. We kind of started with Clubhouse, but we quickly kind of went away from Clubhouse.
Yeah. Which looks great. And I saw it's a great looking platform. I checked it out. I love it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. We'll have to set up some time to show each other the tools. But the thing that I thought was interesting, or I noticed that you guys sort of are focused on podcasters now, or it seems, I think there was a thread of this earlier, like podcast was like an early use case. I'm curious, like, do you feel like there's a lot of unmet need in the podcasting space? Like why are podcasters, do you think, like a good starting point in the ecosystem today?
So when you look at Spore, it's the creator economy is broad, creators are broad. And when you look at Spore, there are a lot of use cases, but who can we provide value immediately? And when we first started out, Austin, working with Josh, created Press Club and created that website for auto creators. So the logical step for us was Clubhouse is going through a phase right now that's a bit challenging. And for our company, we see that the value is that podcasters are going to want to be in live audio, but they're also going to still want to be podcasters. So for us, that was the logical step for us to be able to provide value for them. So it's how do we create value for podcasters in one place, and how do we continue to refine that and expand upon that?
So would you see Spore branching off into other areas, to other focuses of that creators might be interested in the future? And I get the intrigue with podcasting, with the social audio, but what about with those that are writers, that are doing stuff on TikTok or other forms of media? Would that be something that is on a potential runway for Spore?
Absolutely. And when you look at it, a TikToker or YouTuber can easily start using Spore. And while they might not be a podcast, that doesn't limit them from being able to benefit from the platform, specifically around, we already have the ability for you to send text messages, collect emails, and send emails. So you'll be able to do that. And those are areas that we're refining, but we're not in a place where newsletters, creators are going to be able to get the full benefit from our platform exclusively. We're getting there, but right now it's going to be for those podcasters, and even for for TikTokers, YouTubers, they'll easily be able to set up a Spore, and if they wanted to organize their links, show their most recent content, they'll be able to do that, as well as being able to collect contact info. So instead of it just being 20,000 links, and we've all seen link in bios look like this, it's an actual website that they'll be able to get up and running. And the best part about it is it's free to use. So there's no barrier to entry there for them. And we look to expand upon that after we provide value to podcasters. We immediately want to be able to, we want to help one group of creators first, because if you can't help one, you're not going to be able to help them all.
I hear you on that. It makes a lot of sense. Well, and also I think maybe you can help share some facts about podcasters, just like the space, or, some of the things, or facts, for the audience, just like on the growth. I know it's grown tremendously. Do you have any info that you can share with us?
I won't be able to quote the numbers on its growth, but I would say this is that the podcast space is very tough. And you posted it yourself earlier that the CEO of Spotify doesn't look at podcasts being able to monetize the same way. So it's a challenge. So first of all, discoverability is a big problem. And then when you look at the podcast space, a lot of them are still relying on ad revenue, whereas other creators, we know they're relying on, payouts or ad revenue, but they're more often going to lean into other products and revenue streams, with podcasting, that's tough. So our first course of action is let's help them with memberships and give them a way where they can get consistent revenue and expand upon that. So most podcasters, they're battling for downloads, which you and I both know is not who downloads podcasts.
Yeah.
You know,
by the way, this morning my son asked to hear a podcast. And so like when he asked for it, I didn't intuitively go. He's like, can I hear kids' daily stories or something, right? And I was like, okay, sure. So I was like looking it up on YouTube. He's like, no, it's a podcast. I'm like, a podcast?
How does he know? Yeah.
And he literally was like, a podcast is when you listen to it. I was like, oh, all right. Like I didn't know you knew what a podcast was.
Future CEO right there.
What are they teaching them in like those Thomas the Train Engine type of, the Paw Patrol type of videos? You know, it's like, oh, Paw Patrol, sharing is caring, and download our podcast. Like, wait, what? Like,
so Antonio, I guess, what kind of perks or benefits do you see sort of podcasters offering to sort of like their audience? And is your conversion like in the same kind of Patreon style ranges? Like, or are you beating those kinds of numbers?
Well, the first thing is we're not looking at it as competition with other platforms. Our competition is with ourselves. It's the same goal of, are we able to provide more value to creators than we were yesterday? And that's our low hang. That's our metric, because if we aren't able to do that, we aren't able to build trust, and we're not going to be able to retain those creators. So what I see a lot of people getting wrong is they're rushing the relationship. They're trying to pitch. They're trying to get these creators onboarded right away. And the reality is that might have worked in 2016. Creators are businesses, and they're going through the process like decision makers. So it takes some time. So our first goal of action is, a lot of podcasters are monetizing through advertisements. So the way for them to monetize through subscriptions is ad-free episodes. So we're offering that through memberships, but we're really making our memberships as flexible as possible for them to monetize in a way that's unique to them. And then it's, as we're building that trust, helping them continue to think outside of the box on what's possible.
So interesting. A quick question there. So like with an ad-free, say, version of the podcast, would Spore deliver it to the members?
So they'll be able to do that through Spore. And what it'll be is it'll be a membership, and they'll be able to deliver through Spore of this ad-free episode. Or if they wanted to, have access, one of the unique benefits of Spore too is that you have your own branded chat. So what you see with a lot of podcast creators is they're using Discord, but what happens is that say you wanted to go live, you would have to go in Discord. The benefit of it, staying true to that all-in-one area, is that that was two all-in-one area. You'll be able to manage your chat, deliver your episodes, and answer questions all in one place.
Gotcha.
So in terms of what you're talking, one of the questions I was going to ask is like, what's your secret sauce in terms of differentiating yourself from the competitors? But what your response just now kind of highlights. I want to dig a little deeper into that, because you're on the front lines of talking to these creators as the head of business development, right? And
yes.
We have had CEOs, we've had founders on the show who can talk about the vision of the company and everything like that. But as we know, CEOs don't always have time to really get down and dirty with the people that are going to be using their customers. Right. So as somebody who talks to creators on a regular basis, and you're hearing a lot about what their problems are, what their plights are as it relates to podcasting and monetization and just setting up a business, right? Is there anything specific that you can share with us about when you talk to these creators? What are their fears? What are their concerns? And when they talk to you and say, is this something that Spore can help me with? And versus other things in the industry, like what are they seeing in terms of all these different products, these platforms, these services, and like this is not helping me.
And I'll add to that. I guess what we asked Fernando last week was also like, when's the right time for a creator to come to Spore, right? Like just or for super fans, like last week, like is there a ideal customer profile kind of that you have in mind already, or is it open to everybody and they should start ASAP?
Well, I was going to say you had a few questions layered on in there. So what I would say
like to make it easy. Come on.
No, I see. I was like, oh, cool, 10 questions. No, the reality is just that any creator can get up and running with Spore, whether you have an audience or not, if you're just starting off, or even if you're a seasoned vet. The benefit is just that if you're on the season side, you might have a website, but you might want something that's able to manage everything in one place. So you could have a website and then you can also have a Spore. They don't have to be separate. The benefit to the early stage creators is that they really need to just get into the swing of creating content, and they don't need the added stress of managing, again, having to integrate tools and managing that in their day-to-day. And we all know that things break. So it's being able to troubleshoot those. It's the fact that they can get up and running literally in 1 minute. And you can set up right now a site and you'll be a Spore website and you'll be up and running in seconds. And it'll take some time to customize it, but you'll be up and running and be able to get started regardless of what size creator you are.
So in terms of what are they? So that's what you would say. The people that you're talking to are saying this is a concern I have in terms of services, right? It's like, I have this, we have this podcast. We need to grow our audience. We need to monetize it. And sure, the low hanging fruit is to go do advertising, right? So, we can have this now being sponsored by Grammarly or Squarespace or whatever, right? I mean, these are things you see all the time. But if you want to branch off and diversify that's what you just said is something that kind of assuages any of these concerns, and that makes it easier. I better understand it. It's not just this is the same as this one and this one and this one. This is actually what a differentiator is.
Yeah, so especially again on the podcast side, and you'll see this too in other areas, most creators are starting off monetizing via brand deals. But the problem with brand deals is they're inconsistent. The space has gotten so competitive now that I've seen creators with 2 million followers on TikTok get offered brand deals from a few brands, big names, at $200 a post to $400 a post. That's 2 million followers. So I couldn't imagine what it was for someone who's just getting started out. So what people need to understand is something that Lee Jen mentions a lot, is just, having true fans. And that's what we're providing with Spore, is we're trying to get you to that point of having enough true fans where you can start seeing that you're generating revenue and being able to see this as a long-term play, so that you can have that confidence to stay with it. Because that's the biggest thing, is you need to have a win. And every creator's first win is having that one person pay $5 a month, $10 a month. And when you see that, you realize the possibilities. And that's something that was exciting to me to see. And I know that's the same across the board. It's a win that gives you confidence that, hey, I'm on the right path,
I've been working, I keep threatening to do this post, but I haven't finished yet.
Your Twitter threads are epic. I love it. So I'm curious about this post.
I'm trying to find
you're a blogger.
I'm trying to find the image from it.
He's not cool, so he can't write it. So that's why he keeps threatening it.
I don't have time to write long form. Come on.
You should try doing a podcast. Apparently, that's a thing.
Do I look like Hugo to you? That's Hugo's domain. All right, here. So check this out. I'm curious what you think about this. This is sort of the graphic. Oh, this is the wrong one. Dang. But I've been working on this idea of the generational parts around sort of the creator evolution. And let me export the other one. But the theory I have, and I think you just touched on it a little bit, Antonio, is sort of that we are seeing more of what I call the bottoms up creator, which is someone in today's generation sort of starting with the notion or concept of business a little bit more formally planted inside of their ecosystem or their mentality. And so, if you look at sort of this bottom matrix, it's sort of like the evolution of over time, right? What do we start out? We do it as a hobby for passion, and we move into the career phase. And then we maybe potentially become a company, right? Yeah. On the other vertical, it's sort of what's the aspiration, right? It's sort of do I want to be an influencer? Do I want to be a creator? Or do I want to be a consultant? And what I found is that the first two generations, when I was at Clout a long, long time ago, we were we had people who just wanted to be influencers. Like they didn't necessarily have a special skill, right? Like,
I want to be famous.
they wanted to be famous. They were early
Yeah.
adopters of a platform. You know, like think about it. There's some people even on Clubhouse say that got put on the follow list, and they have like tens of millions of followers now, and they're no more special than anyone else who was there at the exact same time, right? Like they didn't necessarily have any more particular insight per se. It's a very different thing to like organically grow up to sort of that area, right? That as opposed to like get there sort of by some other approach. But both that the middle-aged sort of the second gen, the creator space, like when YouTube started kind of using that term as well, even though they were creating things, they were still interested in growing a big audience more so than they were like creating like these business revenue streams and lines of business. And over time, what we found is people got smarter and they started to put more and more out, right? Or started to diversify. Like I think like creator, like here's my better version, right? So that orange line is that first clout time, right? Like when people just want to be influencers. The second line, the pink line is kind of like where we were in Gen 2 when creators started to come out. But you still aspired. You couldn't be full-time until you had a big audience, right? Now we've got this new generation. Like I think two things are happening. One, some creators starting out saying, no, I'm going to start as a consultant. Like I'm doing like what you're saying. I'm going to build a small audience that's powerful and valuable, right? And what I'm going to do instead, right, is over time, what I want to do is I'm going to build up potentially to a bigger audience. But if I never get to a huge audience, that's okay, right? There's also tons of these, domain experts. I think that's why Clubhouse was really successful actually early on, was that it gave a space to lots of lightweight and domain experts who might not have been able to actually create, like maybe, making YouTube videos is hard work, right? Like making,
Yes.
most social media is actually much harder than like anyone gives it credit for, right? But Clubhouse made it easy because you could talk. And if you were an expert, talking is easy about the thing right? And without the production work. And so I think like what we found is just that this idea that having the ability to have more consultative work or more, and what consultative work really means is monetizing customers more so than audience, right? Like individual relationships as opposed to like access to a large audience, right? That's the fundamental shift. And I think like our ecosystem of tools that you and I are in and that all of our guests have been in, we're really servicing more so this emergent mindset and behavior than the older one. The older one I don't think is going away. I'm curious your thoughts though, right? Like, are you going to help with the brand side too? Like, so, because it seems like a lot of the use cases you described so far, and I'm sure there's others, were people who are running ads, but even having with running ads is like somewhat evolved, right? As in the lifespan of your podcast, right?
So when I say running ads with brands is the reality is that that's the first course of action that someone's going to be able to monetize
The
because
default. Yeah.
It's the default because it's going to be tough to, even in the beginning, you're not sure the buying power of your audience. So the way for you to be able to get money and as far as on the membership side is that you also don't know how many of these people are going to be subscribing. So you might have 1,000 followers, but 2 people pay you $5 a month. Meanwhile, a brand will approach you and say, hey, we'll give you $100 to post this to your page. So for the creator, the consultant, the creator, they're going to focus on the brand deal first. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that has a ceiling. And we also know that when you do brand deals, there's a lot of gray area and it gets taxing. And it can damage your brand equity and your relationship with your audience. So creators, after they're doing a good amount of brand deals, they're in a place where they feel confident enough to branch out into memberships and they see the opportunity there. So the way we see it is brand deals aren't going away. And that's still a revenue stream for creators, but we just want to amplify that by helping them have membership. So at the end of the day, if they want to just post it on their feed, if they want to negotiate higher terms so they can share it in their chat or share it in their email, their SMS, we're giving them that leverage to do that, but we're also giving them the comfort of having consistent revenue. And that's currently through our memberships.
Yeah.
So Antonio, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball here. Prior to the show, I came across this article in Axios.
Okay.
So Daniel Ek, the CEO of Spotify, did a podcast with Dan Primek, the reporter at Axios, and he had some interesting stuff to say in terms of audience and creators, specifically around podcasting. And I wanted to kind of see if you had any thoughts on that. So I'm going to try and do this without screwing up entirely, but you never know how technology works these days. So there we go. All right. So as you can see here, this is just a highlight. You can listen to the entire podcast yourself if you want on Axios's website, or even on Spotify. So let's start with the audience, right? So Daniel Ek is saying that podcasting podcast listeners are stickier than music listeners, but he doesn't think that the podcast audience will overtake traditional music. What are your thoughts in terms of that? Do you think that based on your conversations with creators and your involvement in the podcasting industry, do you see that what Daniel's saying has some validity?
What I see is a common problem in the industry where we try to pit creators against each other. And music podcasters, they're very two different creators. So their audience also has different needs. And you can't compare the two. From his stance, I'm sure he has some data to help him out with that. But the opportunity I see is that podcasters aren't going anywhere, and they're transcending they're not just podcasters, they're live audio creators. It's this hybrid audio creator, and if they want it, they can maybe get to a point where they're selling their content sampled into music. So it's going to be a lot of gray area, and we're seeing that creators of all sizes and backgrounds are starting to branch out and change. So someone who's just a podcast creator is evolving, and someone who's a music artist is evolving as well. So it's not something that can be compared. It's like apples to oranges.
It's anecdotal, but I feel like most podcasters are still multi-platform, right? Like maybe not video, but they probably do some kind of abstractions from their content.
Even on the video side, so podcast discoverability is a huge challenge, and Spotify themselves acquired, I forgot the name of the company, it might be Pods, but they acquired a podcast discovery platform, and that's a huge challenge. So you'll see a lot of podcasters, they have, when I talk to them, the biggest thing is that they're looking for SEO and some form of help with video, because we're seeing that short form video is powering the traffic to their podcast. So now, are they a podcaster, or are they a YouTuber, a podcaster, a TikToker, and maybe they repost that to IG Reels? So you can't
make you a reeler.
Yeah. Oh, that was brutal to say. I'm glad you said it. But it just
the cool people, the cool bloggers can say it clearly, right?
Yeah. No, but and that's how you have to look at it. It's just that. So are they a podcaster, or they're this multifaceted creator that is really just the scrappiness of an entrepreneur that's testing channels, trying to grow their platform?
Right. What that does touch on sort of this idea that I was chatting on earlier, right? Like, when you're an expert or a consultant, that term covers everything. You don't have to be a YouTuber to be, like, it doesn't suddenly like preclude you from being like a different kind of thing, right? And maybe that's what we're moving towards, which I hope is the case, because your knowledge, expertise, and skill is horizontal, right? Like you can leverage it in lots of different ways and shapes and forms. And so I think like audio is a great starting point for sure. There's a lot of great tools to start a podcast as well. So that process is getting easier. I don't know if it's, I don't know to the extent that it's interesting, like this space, like, because we're seeing sort of like a deconstruction of the podcast itself, right? Into you look at things like Racket, et cetera, right? Or Clubhouse, where we're decomposing sort of like a long form audio into much smaller things, much like happened with video and text, right? Do you think that whole ecosystem is growing, or do you think there's a lot left to come here, or do you think we've sort of seen what's there?
I think we're still in the early stages, and Clubhouse gets a bad rep, but I'm pretty confident they'll bounce back. But I see this opportunity where the barrier of entry, like you said with Racket, and I'm glad you mentioned it, but I can just plug my headphones in and talk for a few minutes, and I can take that and I could put it on Spotify, And if I wanted to, I could record myself talking and put it on YouTube and put it on TikTok. So
that's a different Austin, by the way, right?
Yes, I think the CEO is awesome, but he really built something unique, and I really like what they're
super
building.
cool.
It's fun, and I think the connotation previously when approaching long form podcasts is that these podcasters put a lot of work in it, and they gave them this idea that it wasn't fun, but it makes it fun, and creating a podcast is fun. So I like how Racket was able to do that and make it really easy to get started. And I'm just curious to see how they grow and what they continue to build.
Yeah. So Antonio, there's another part of this podcast that what Daniel was talking about in terms of creators specifically, and obviously this is related to everything that you were talking about in terms of monetization. Let me see if we can't get that back on there. Oh, okay, let's get that on there. So basically, he's saying Daniel doesn't believe that podcast creators will be paid per stream royalties as Spotify does for music creators, but he does think there's going to be a broadening and acceleration of podcast monetization options. So I think that's very similar to what you're talking about earlier in terms of, as podcasters, the low-hanging fruit is to go after brand deals. But to what Spore's doing is like, look, we can help you out with the brand deals, everything like that. But let's think differently. Let's diversify your opportunities and start with a membership. Is there anything that you can say about future monetization options that Spore might launch to kind of help out with that?
Well, our goal is just to give podcasters and creators the opportunity to monetize in a way that best suits their needs. So those needs are going to be different across the board. But for podcasters, the first thing we need to instill this is you need to get your audience. You need to own that audience. You need to own the relationship. And when you talk to podcasters, this is an area that people miss the mark on, is that they don't understand that concept of owning an audience. And the way I repeat that is if you had to, and not just, but if you had to reach out to your followers and you needed to tell them something, you need to own that relationship. So email, SMS, and what we want to do is first instill that, helping them continue to, onboard their audience and get them into memberships. And once you get them into that area, you'll be able to, as you're familiar with, upsell. So we just want to get them in a place where they're bringing in some revenue and we're helping them there so that we can take them to that next step. And it takes focus because there's so many ideas that we would love to execute, but right now it's just, let's continue to help them flesh out memberships so that they don't have to rely on the inconsistency that comes with brand deals.
I have a question, actually. One of the things to your point, I think podcasters in particularly, because their distribution is actually completely sort of obfuscated, right? Like, if you're on YouTube, at least you're on YouTube, right? Like, where you can kind of see some stuff, right? And there's a little bit more of an interactivity model sort of natively to most social platforms, right? Related, I guess, is understanding how to price yourself, right? So, I feel like one of the biggest challenges creators have in particular is they always undervalue the work and the effort that they put forward. Any thoughts or on how to for maybe creators who are listening, like how should they starting to think about their pricing model, like for memberships and things like that? And is that something you guys make recommendations on or anything like that?
We don't make recommendations there yet because what we believe is that creators know their audience best. But down the line, we would love to get more insights there and seeing on how we can help creators there. But what I would say is creators drastically undervalue themselves. And you see this a lot too, going back to your consultant angle, where early stage consultants are notorious for underselling themselves. I remember when I just got into the consulting game and I would sell like a 1K retainer, and it took someone to tell me, oh, you can up the price of that. And I was like, there's no way someone would pay 5K. And someone pays that money. And it's a mental hurdle that creators have to get over. But here's what I always say is, it's easier to reduce the price than it is to raise the price. So get to a point where, I'm not saying you're a creator that you can justify charging $100 a month. And maybe you are, and you have to experiment it. But what I would say is, are you providing value? Are you answering the questions and building a relationship with your audience where they are, coming back and loving your content? And don't be afraid to start high. And if people say this is absolutely absurd and no one's paying for it, then you can reduce it. But what you'll find is that what people pay and what people say they won't pay for are two very different things. So don't be afraid to price yourself at a point where you can also make a lifestyle, because you're providing value to your audience. And if you're not able to make a living, you won't be able to provide that value. So start on the higher end. Don't, make it too crazy. Be confident in it, test it. And if you need to reduce it, but it's always going to be higher. It's always going to be harder to increase the price.
Can you gift? So how do your Spore memberships, I guess, work, say, alongside the ecosystem of memberships that maybe exist, right? So like, can I gift a membership to someone, or can I just make someone a certain level? Or I know like a lot of people use Patreon, for example, as the primary way to control access to their Discord, right? Like,
yes.
How is that ecosystem? Do you see it now and sort of like moving for you guys?
So the benefit for us is we have chat built in. So it's your personal branded chat. So you can have a free membership, you can have a paid membership, and you can limit access to that content or to those channels. So it's really up to you. And this is an area that we're continuing to test and improve, because the needs of the creators are evolving and how they want to create memberships are evolving. So what I would say is we're previously in a stage where it's like the old days of SaaS, where it's just, basic access or ad free. And then we're going to see more intricate areas of memberships. And our goal is to just be able to create a system that's flexible enough to be able to achieve that.
Super cool.
So what can we expect in the future for the company, and like, what's the long-term vision for Spore, right? I mean, you've raised $1 million in a round led by Signal Fire, by Josh Constantine, who's a dear friend of ours. But like, what can we expect from Spore in the next year, right? I mean, say, we bring you back in a year from now. We're like, hey, Antonio, what's changed, right? I mean, any thoughts that you can share about
Oprah gets people to cry. We get people to do screen shares of the future roadmap.
Yeah. Well, in a year,
everyone look under your chairs.
In a year, I'll still be blogging. So there's that.
But that means you'll be cool.
Everything old is cool again, right? We're rebooting everything, right? So
yeah. No, it's just it might not sound sexy, but it's just we want to be the platform that has unparalleled trust with creators and giving them the flexibility to do what they want, achieve what they want, and being able to run their business. And that's our goal is, and we know that starts with trust. And this is something that gets way overlooked in the creator economy. So, and in a year, we're looking at a place where we have strong relationships with our creators. We're in a place where we're continuing to refine and being able to deliver on their needs, and that we're able to grow with them. That's the value, is that we're so early in the creator space and it's continuously to grow, and creators are growing, and we just want to be able to give them the infrastructure to grow with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one last question before we close up and go to After Dark. Antonio, when we chat all the time now, back and forth here and there. Last week I had sort of this thread about like creators need to be treated like founders and whatnot,
yes.
right? And largely because like platforms like us, I felt we're taking some arrows for like trying to monetize through like performance, right? Like transaction based sort of systems. And I know Spore, I believe, is also in the 10% camp.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Like, I mean, is that like a test? Do you think that could change or evolve over time, or just your general thoughts, I guess, in sort of like the broader conversation about how platforms like ours should try to monetize to participate and help grow the efforts and energies of creators as well?
I think you could look back into our conversation on how creators price themselves, and it's how much value are you providing? And when we look at that, is how do we continue to add value to these creators and give them as many tools and resources as possible, whether that's new features or guides? How do we continue to give these to creators so that we can say, all right, we're investing in you, and the 10% is just is us growing with you. And that's what I see it is that a lot of people don't want to look at creators as founders, but you need that needs to change. And when you talk to creators and you realize how scrappy they are, they're scrappier than some founders. So
like, without a doubt.
So, you know, like I creators are hustling going live every single day, creating content, building a brand, negotiating brand deals. They're doing everything. And a lot of this is on their own with a job. So the way we look at it is that rather than just saying, hey, pay me the $30 a month so I can forecast my revenue, we're like, if you're not growing, we're not growing. If you're not growing, we're not growing. So I would say what I would say is that we're the ones that are investing in creators while the others are just, you know, trying to impact their bottom line in a way that isn't too risky. But what we're doing is we're investing, we're growing with them, and we're forming that relationship.
Yeah, I'm with you, by the way. I think we don't give them enough credit. I often say they're a good role model for what a well-run business could look like, right? Like very diverse revenue streams.
Yes.
You know, very Spartan teams, right? Lightweight, like, you know, nimble, right? Like they get a lot done with like a very few people. And that's not you know, I know it's not the majority, but it's also not the exception, right? Like to the rule, right? But I do think at the flip side, there's an interesting dynamic here of like, is there like some escape velocity sort of maximums and other things like that I think that I'm personally curious and interested in, just because I think there are some lifetime sort of like we've seen like Twitter test this sort of with some of their stuff, or, you know, like we want you to be successful, so we're going to like make it really easy for you to be on us, but then later we'll start to participate because we've helped you grow to a place, you know, where it is. I'm not saying that that's the best model or the right model, but I think it's very interesting. For sure. Antonio, I want to say thank you. By the way, Heather, it's so good to see you.
Yes.
Super
I'm going to be
scrappy.
on Heather's show in a couple of weeks, I think. So
you'll have to link me to that. I want to support that. You shoot me that link. I'm
going to send you a
check
calendar invite link.
Oh, okay.
Heather has to invite you herself.
That VIP treatment.
Yeah. He's going to put it on calendartumblr.tumblr.com on his blog because he's super.
Am I going to have to? Am I going to have to Tumblr subscription for that? Since you know all that.
You can do Tumblr Plus now. I mean, they launched that. You know.
I'm going to set up a Spore, and only members will get the link.
Let's do it.
So basically, we're going to pool membership. So we'll just have one account, and then we'll just share the link out from there. So.
Actually, how come we didn't schedule? Oh, I think I forgot to schedule Heather for our show, but we'll have her on also.
Wait, Greg, you're on August 17th.
I'm on August 17th. All right, there we go.
Boom.
Well, Heather, we need you to come on to the show maybe like September 8th, because I think that's our next opening. Actually, because Antonio's going to be back. In case you don't know, by the way, the original plan for today, and this worked out great, by the way, so there's no disappointment on our side. Yeah. But Antonio also started with another friend of ours, Steven, the Black Creator Crew.
Yep.
Am I getting it right?
Yeah.
There was a few words, and I know, which I think is an amazing effort. And we wanted to have them both on to come and tell us a bit about that. And maybe we should have you try to bring some of the creators in with you that day too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It'd be fun. It was certainly for After Dark, because then we can have like up to 15 people join us as well. So Anthony and Steven will be back on September 1st.
Antonio.
Wow.
Just listen. Just go and make.
I'm a blogger, right, man. Now. You know, if I can't read a long form, I don't know what's going on.
I'm gonna start a Spore membership just for you, and it's gonna be $50 for the Anthony. So you can just go ahead and become the loyal fan right now, and it's okay. Things happen.
So Antonio, we really know it's your alternate identity because it's the internet, right? You're like, I'm really Anthony as well. So this is
it's not like your name is printed on the screen right in front of me.
Well, look, Greg. Basically, we get it because it's a bot it's a subscriber you bought that's named Anthony that you want to really have on the show, not us. We get it. We get it.
This is absolutely true. But we are about to transition to the second part of the show. I hope you can join us for a few minutes, Antonio.
Cool.
But just for bookkeeping, next episode, we are off next week. But the week after, we will have our friend Jim Louderback, the GM of VidCon, on to tell us everything about what's going on at the next VidCon, sponsored by TikTok for the first time.
Yep, looking forward to this one.
Big
deal, big change, big things are afoot. So excited to talk to Jim in 2 weeks. So by all means, make sure you hit that. Also, this Friday, don't forget our news show. It will be back. Creative Briefs, July 30. By the way, someone DM'd me and said, "Hey, Creative Briefs sounds like an underwear line." Okay. Ken picked the name of that show.
Now, when you say somebody DM'd you, is it basically your mind? You thought about this, or you just woke up like, "Hey, you know what?
No,
This sounds like an underwear line."
I got a message on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
Like, and he was laughing his ass off. But yeah, we do have our good friend James Hicks actually coming up on August 18th as well. August 25th, we have Roni from Communico, another Discord friend from the Discord. And then, yes, as I mentioned, Antonio and Steven will be back.
Anthony.
Oh, got it right. There we go.
Who's Antonio?
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. Don't. Anthony's not showing up.
Well, you're the one reinforcing the wrong name by pointing it out. Like I've said it the right way. All right. Anyway, if you would like to be a guest, by the way, head over to creativeeconomy.com. There's a link there for you to join us. You can submit your name. We're always looking for new guests. We are booked up through September 1st right now, but I'm pretty sure Heather's going to be there for September 8th. Right, Heather? Come on. Yes. But I'm going to hold that spot for Heather. But yeah, September is when we are looking for our next guest. So by all means, head over there and give us a shot. Now we're about to head into the after show. It is a chance to come on stage, to chat, to interact. We have a lot of fun. It's off the record. It's not recorded, largely because Zealous can't record anything right now. But it will be on the record at some point. But if you want to join for the after show, pop in. You get to see what Zealous looks like for a minute as well. It's at created.show/live, and you can join right now. And I will head over there to get it going. But thank you everyone for being here. Head over to created.show/live. Ken, you know what? I got that special music on a
Wait. We got some breaking news about September 8th. We have a confirmation. Heather's joining us.
Ooh, yeah. All right, Heather. I'm going to lock it in. I will send you the invite right now. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Antonio, for joining us today. It was a great conversation. We appreciate you being open and out there about what's going on with, Spore. It's very exciting. I love that you're helping podcasters. You didn't know this, by the way. I was an early podcaster. I have 2 chapters and 2 podcasting books. I did 300 podcasts in 4 months. I used to do a show called Beer Casting. I traveled around the United States and actually did podcasts live in bars. So I spent plenty of time doing some podcasting myself. So I'm always happy to see folks doing more successful over there. So by all means, join us over at created.show/live. It'll take you right into Zealous, so you can join us for the after show. We look forward to seeing you. And with that, we will see you all on Friday for After Dark.